Remember, they went onto the road and lost 50-7 to TCU. Now, that was a very good TCU team with Trevon Boykin at quarterback, but 50-7. I understand that they just lost a week ago on the road in another very poor defensive effort. But I think this is a better team than he had last year, and they were able to turn around and actually stop that OU run game to the tune of only 67 yards in that ball game. So they certainly have the ability to come in and win this football game. Now, whether they do it or not remains to be seen.
Why is he struggling so mightily at Texas?
You know, I think that there's any number of reasons, right? I mean, any coach in any situation in America has several different reasons why they succeed or why they don't succeed. But if I were to rank them, my top two would be, first and foremost, I think that Charlie Strong has gone against his football foundation. And the way that he cut his teeth and who he is as a football coach. And then secondly, I think that he made a strategic error in leadership when he first got to Texas. Let me start with the first one. His football foundation as a defensive coach has been to have an offense that protects that defense. Let me give you some evidence. At Louisville, Jason, his defenses saw about 26 minutes time of possession. Last year, they saw almost 33 minutes of time of possession. That's a 7-minute gap, because he decided to go to the tempo offense rather than have an offense that was a pro style, protect the defense, ball control style of offense. That 7 minutes is 420 seconds. If you're seeing a play every 20 to 22 seconds and you give up 6.7 yards per play, which Texas does, that's 140 yards per game. So just by the math, they're a worse defense, and I think philosophically Charlie has struggled because of that. He's demoted his coordinator, Vance Bedford, the defensive coordinator. He demoted his offensive coordinator last year, Sean Watson, before this game. Both of those guys were the ones that helped get him this job as coordinators at Louisville. My second point would be that I think he made a strategic error in leadership when he got to Texas. Anybody that comes into a position in power over any group of people has a stark decision to make. You can either talk about changing the culture or building one. He went in very clearly talking about changing a culture. I believe that that creates a divisive environment, a defensive player that digs his heels in, and it takes you down to basically a baseline, because you talk about changing rather than building. If you get kids on your side, then you can have an area where you're building from higher than baseline, but you had to tear that program all the way down, kick a bunch of kids off the team, and so it's going to take longer than 2.5 years to get to where he wants to go.
You have just said a mouthful. Building a culture versus changing a culture. I will be thinking about that for the rest of the week. Now, having praised you for saying something really smart, I heard you earlier this morning say something incredibly un-Joel Klatt-like. I won't call it stupid. It's just un-Joel Klatt-like. You called Texas the best job in college football.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'll defend that one. Maybe the best job in football, period, pro or college.
You know, I think these are your words from a year ago, because I don't think I came up with them. Baylor's rise, ascension, that hurts Texas.
Yes, it does.
TCU moved to the Big 12, becomes a power school. That hurts Texas.
Yeah.
It used to be the best job in football. How can you still say it is?
There are 5 main criteria when it comes to, from a coach's perspective, choosing your location if you're a candidate. Recruiting base. There's not a better recruiting base in America than Texas. As evidence, in 2005, the University of Texas won a national championship. There was only about 2, 3, maybe 4 players from outside the state on the roster. So you've got the best recruiting base in all of football. Your fan base has to be tremendous. There is not a better fan base in America than Texas. Do you know how I know that? They have their own 24-hour network, the Longhorn Network. You got to have a president and athletic director that are committed to your program. There's no president that's more committed than Greg Fenves. Greg Fenves last year, when they needed an offensive coordinator, he got on a private jet himself, flew to Tulsa to get Sterling Gilbert down there as an offensive. That is commitment from your administration. You got to have tradition. They absolutely have it at Texas, and you've got to be in a Power 5 conference. I'll take it a step further than a Power 5 conference. Texas is their own conference. They are the biggest domino when it comes to conference realignment. Everybody would die to have them, so it has no bearing whether the Big 12 is strong or not. Texas is just fine. That's why Texas is not only the best job in college football, but maybe all of football in this country.
I want to add a few more things to my argument. Texas A&M moves to the SEC.
Yeah.
This big recruiting landscape they're talking about in Texas, there are 3 prominent invaders into the space Texas used to own all to itself. Baylor, Texas A&M, TCU.
Yeah.
It's more competitive.
It is, but there's only about 4 or 5 states that 60% of FBS players come from, period. That's Florida, Texas, Ohio, and California. And Texas is the bulk of that. So you only need 25 great players a year, and there's plenty more than 25. So you can have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 invaders into your own state, and there's still enough players when you open up your back door to fill a roster for national championship caliber teams.